everybody, welcome in this new episode of Juno Live. I hope you are all feeling well and that everything is alright. So today my idea was not to live stream code or vibe coding as usual, I would say, but rather to go through the latest release, which has just been published today. As a matter of fact, I was still trying to deploy some stuff, but yeah, most of the work is done. So yeah, to go through the changes, I think we can go through the release notes that are available on GitHub and also on the website. I think there should be a changelog somewhere right here. You're gonna have the same entries. So let's have a look. First of all, like, I had that in the pipeline since a long time, but I think that the default freezing threshold, which is like the grace period, let's call it like that, which means that it's the period during which your satellites or mission control or whatever module you have would basically stop accepting updates but still give you answers if it goes under a certain level of cycles or if it doesn't have enough cycles anymore. You know, like, it's the information you find here that says, oh, your grace period is set to 30 days and for that period you're gonna need so much cycles and currently you have so much cycles. And yeah, I figured out, I should have done that probably earlier, that 30 days, which is the default on the internet computer, is probably too low for our use cases. So it has always been documented that it's advised to push it a bit higher, but I think we should do that by default. So as of now, if you spin a new satellite, let's say here, let's try to do that. So if I spin a new satellite in the console, the default freezing threshold or grace period will be set to a year. And likewise for the mission control, which is your wallet, which is even more important, that will be set to a year. But of course there is no script to migrate or update the settings of your module because you are the only one who controls your module. So instead of that, in your project you will see like a new notification panel here at the top. And in that panel you will find an inbox that tells you, hey, some of your modules have a short freezing threshold. It's recommended to have a longer period. You have a button that goes to the documentation that explains you blah 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 and say, oh, you should use 30 days or analytics a bit shorter, explain you how it works with the calculation and everything. And then if you want to hide that, you can dismiss it, or you can push it higher if you want by going to the setup. And in the freezing threshold here, we see it's a year because it's just no satellites, but let's take another one. So that's a whole project I have. You see it's 30 days. So I go here, and instead of a month, I'm gonna set a year. And when I have updated all my modules to a year, it's really important, I guess, for this one. And yeah, I'm done. Instance setup. Here we're gonna set a year. When you finish updating all your modules, then you will be the tips will also disappear. And yeah, if I go back to the one we just spinned, we see that here I have a phrasing threshold of a year. Alright, if you have question, you can always ping me. And here you have the link to the documentation as well. Okay, so when it goes to your satellites, because you have received some updates, right? That you can either update directly when going to your satellites or through the upgrade process, right? There is a fix for gzip. So we already had like automatically CSS, JavaScript and so on that was gzipped, but there was actually a small bug in the certification, and therefore the HTML file couldn't be gzipped. So now that's resolved, and of course it's better to send gzipped answers because then your website gonna be a bit faster. So if we have a look, we're gonna handle this. So let's have a look here. Yes. So if I check the answer here, that's my personal website. You see the answer is plain HTML, right? And that's not what we want. So now I want to use that fix. So what I do is I go to my console and I go to the upgrades and I'm gonna upgrade my website. Okay. Once it's upgraded, I will need to redeploy the website because the gzip file are not yet there, right? So either I do it with the CLI. In that case, I need to update my CLI first. So I would need to go here and update my CLI, right? Oh, let me zoom. That would be a bit nicer. So here I will need to update my CLI, or if I use the GitHub action, I would just need to retrigger a deploy because the GitHub action have been updated to use the latest CLI. So I go to my website and I go to my action. I have one action to deploy Juno, and here I will just start the deploy. And in the meantime, we can just assert here that, see if I reload, it's still HTML because, well, the page is not yet gzipped, right? So we're gonna have a look at the redeploy here, and did it include? Yeah, make me think that I should disable gzipping by default here, but yeah. So at some point it will start redeploying, I guess. Maybe not. All right, so no file change, nice. All right, that's a bit dumb. Yeah, of course. So what we can do is I would need to touch the file, right? Alright, so just for demo purposes, we're gonna do that. I'm gonna go to my website. I will go in my storage, so you can do a clear, but just to be quick here, what I'm gonna do is I will search my index page. Where is it? This one. I will remove it. Alright, there is probably a bit off, and here we're gonna rerun the job. Alright, but in the meantime, just to show you, I applied that on the Juno website. You see that now here the content is encoded. Alright, and here of course I have an error now because I have deleted my index file. So let's wait. I wonder what the step is. Let me think. My website, in my svelte config, that's not related to the version, but here there is a pre-compress, yes, that I need to set to false because Juno takes care of that. Right, so here you see it uploaded the gzip file and then the index.html, and now if we upload this page, assuming the certification gonna be there at some point, almost there, come on, yeah. So here if we have a look, we now see that it's encoded is gzip. Yeah, and it's really nice because then you got like a small extra boost on your website, I guess. If we have a look here, yeah, not too bad, right? Oh, not too bad. All right. So that's for gzip. Then there is a new function called allowed colors. So basically, this is an option to reject any sign up or reject that any particular identities could not use your services unless you specify which of those you want to use. So in the console, if for example here where I am, if I go to this website here, maybe not, yeah, it's a bit slow, huh? Yeah. So see here I have a user. I'm not sure exactly what's the ID, but here when I logged in I have a count, right? And right, so here if I just gonna go see what's my counter, let's sort by most recent. So that was this user, so that's probably my owner, this counter. So let's say I don't want all those here to have access, so of course I can go to my authentication and then ban those I don't want. But let's say I don't want that, and I don't want even people to be able to register. So what I can do is I can go here to the authentication setup, and here you have allowed colors, and I think it's comma separated or one per line. Yeah. So here I enter that particular key, you see, and I'm gonna submit this configuration. So now I have one identity. So here this one will still be able to count and use the function, I guess. Yes, but let's say here I never use that application and I try to sign in. And maybe yeah, you see, then I get an issue, Juno auth error color not allowed, which means that no one else can join that application, and that means that they cannot sign in, so it doesn't create an authentication, they cannot use the data store, they cannot use the storage, and so on. So it's a nice way to prevent user. And so you can do that when the app is live, but you can also do that before the app is live. So let's say you are developing an application and you just want specific person to sign in. So what you can do is, like, you have to implement something in your UI to show the people what would be their identities, and then they copy it and then send you it, you insert it in your console and they cannot enter it. Yeah, kind of nice. If you have a question, you ask. It's also documented on the website here, right? Blah blah blah. So I hope it's relatively clear. I hope. Right. It's maybe not that visual, but there was a small discrepancy. Is that the correct word? So the entry in the data store and the storage used to be versioned. You have to fetch the last version, otherwise you cannot update the data, because you don't want your user to, I don't know, like, start overwriting their data if they are working on two devices at the same time. And that was not applied to the configuration, so like to the authentication setup, the satellite setup here, where is it? Which we not necessarily have here, and those kind of things. And so there is no field in it, but it should be transparent, because the console UI was already taking care of passing the version, and the CLI has been improved. So that means that now the CLI will basically cache a hash of your config and check if there is something to apply or not, and if it applies, then it warns you if there is an overwrite, and then it's gonna add the version. So yeah, should be fine. Just so that you know, like the satellites and the console have been upgraded to the latest IC CDK and the latest stable structure. So we are up to date with all the changes and breaking changes. The code itself has not been migrated, so they are warning there's still something to do, but at least we are on the latest status of the tooling. All right. So let's have a bit of fun now. In the CLI, there used to be a command called Juno use that somehow, according to a small poll, no one was using except me, and that's good. So that means that I could rewrite it or remove it. The idea is that, for example, me, I got like, here I have a mission control with some project, right? And that's more like my playground and demo and those kind of things. But here with another identity, I have more important things like my website or the CDN of Juno, like proposal.network, IC draw, and that's another mission control. And locally, I don't want to control them with the same identity. I want to have distinctive identities, so that way I can also have different password maybe. And yeah, so that's why instead of there used to be use, so that you could switch, for example, like Juno use my Juno use this part or Juno use that part, but that has been removed and it's now called profile, right? So let's have a look. Yeah. So I will go in the example. I have that application here, you know, the one that we just opened, which is called Astro. Okay. I will open WebStorm here. Alright, and just create a new change log. Alright, and do we have, no, I have no changes. Okay, so now let's say I want to deploy that locally with the CLI, but I want to have a specific profile for it, right? So what I'm gonna do is I will do Juno login, as I always do, but I will give a profile argument with a name, like let's call it Juno. No, that's not a good name. Yeah, Juno live demo. Why not, right? So it will not open Brave, but let's do it. So here it asks me if I want to encrypt the file. So you should encrypt your file if it's not development. I'm not gonna do it here because I just want to showcase, and then I will remove later on that access key. So then here I copy to go in the good browser. Okay, so now you see here I have my terminal. But now there is also, you see here, the profile that is written. So with that profile, I just gonna select the one that I want to have, right? And I'm gonna authorize it. Okay, I'm good. So now if I go to my setup, you see here, now I have that same identities and it has the profile. And now if I would like to deploy, what I would do is I would do the same. I would do, assuming I have the right satellite ID in my configuration. Yes, production. So here I would do Juno deploy minus profile. What was the name I used? Here. Oopla. Okay, there is no file change. Yeah. Not a grid demo. All right, and you see it deploys because it used that profiles and so on, and that's documented on the website. So you got mode and profile, and it's also interesting to note that it will do like it will put together the identities. For example, you can have like minus profile team minus mode staging is not the same as minus profile team, which is production, right? So you can even have like distinctive key per environment. And if we'll have a look how that works out, basically the CLI has some configuration file on your machine, and it's like in your preference folder, for example, on Mac. So if we have a look here, and we have named the things that was Juno live demo. So if I have a look here to what I have, okay, Juno live, no, Juno live, yeah, because that was a bit like a weird name I picked. Okay, you see, basically now it has two folders. So if we have a look at the one that is called Node.js, cat, yeah, it's better if I go in the folder, right? Node.js. You see, that's the token, and that's why you need to encode your file, because here that's the, if someone would copy quickly that, then they can take control of that satellites. That's why you need to encode those. And if we go to Juno Live demo, the other one, this one is just like small settings that tells the CLI if the file is encrypted or not, because this way, if the file is not encrypted, the CLI doesn't ask you for a password, so just to improve the UX. And now, coming back to the config, let's say here, we are here, right? You see, I got like some configuration, like with the headers, redirects, rewrite, and this kind of things. And yeah, so let's apply that. And if I config the satellites now, but basically what it does is it applies the config, right? But it also saves now locally a new thing called state that contains like a hash of the config that has applied. Like, and if you do that for your data store, for all the function that you can do, it just contains a hash. This way, the next time you apply it, he can check if it's the last version of Node, you know. So for example, let's see. So you see, like in this in the authentication here, we have set one identity, right? So I'm just gonna update the live dependency to be sure that I have everything that is up to date. So we don't care about that. We don't care about that. I want to keep that. Alright, so let's update this. Alright, so let's say that now here, yeah, I should close this because I always come here. We go in our configuration and we say, oh, I want to configure my authentication, and in my authentication I want to actually clean the allowed colors. So now we're gonna have like a difference, because here we have allowed color that is empty, and here it has one identity. So let's see if maybe it asks to upgrade or not. Yes, you see now the CLI check and say, ah, but wait, this is not the same version, right? And now I can tell, okay, I want to overwrite or not. So for demo purpose, I will overwrite. Which worked it out, right? So if I refresh here, you see we don't have any restriction here anymore. And let's say I change my mind, and now I really want to set that back again. So I go to my CLI, and here I want to see that. And now here, basically, I don't want my CLI to ask me if I want to overwrite. I know that I want to overwrite. That's why here it's just gonna do it, because if it checks the config here, the store, you're gonna say, ah, that's the same hash that is actually the live version, so I can overwrite it. So yeah, long story short. I hope it's interesting that I explain how it works. Not sure it makes sense, but yeah. Anyway, so it's kind of useful. Right, if we continue with the new things, all right. So that's a big change too. Particularly with Skylab or on mainnet, the Skylab emulator, right? You always configure collection with the UI, right? And maybe it could be interesting to be able to configure those as well with the CLI. So that's new. What you can do is you go in your configuration, and now here you're gonna have a new thing called collection. That's an object, right? And here you have the data store, right? Data store, and you can start documenting your collection. So here we have a collection name, a counter, right? It has read, which is managed, write same, and what it has, oh, it's on heap memory for some reason. That's a whole project. And max change per user is set to, that's a number or big number, 10, 100. And maybe we want to create a new collection, so let's go and say we want a collection called demo that has read write and that is on stable. And again, if I go here in my things and I go Juno profile, blah blah, configuring. Oopla, sorry. If we go back here now, I might need to refresh my screen, I'm not sure, or it just did not work, that's also possible. Something happened, something did happen. Yeah, weird. Oh, okay, it did not work out. Yeah, of course, that's the demo effect, isn't it? Did I have a mistakes in my typings? Read, collection, read, write, memory. Yeah, maybe I missed something and I'm gonna, it's really I just released the CLI, so I might be missing something, but I guess not. Yeah, I'll debug afterwards, but the idea is the following, is that yeah, for some reason it doesn't work. Yeah, there is maybe a bug. I will debug. Anyway, so that's really handy because let's say you work locally with the npm create. You create a new project with Juno, and when you create that project, you select you are here, and okay, I will open WebStorm. So you have your project, right? And if it install right, when you want now to start working locally, you're gonna start the local environment, right? Okay, so I'll also take a screenshot because I need to change that. So if I start Docker, that's actually not what I want, so I'll go in the emulator, and here we're gonna use we're gonna put a runner type Docker, and here I will use another image name. Volume to be sure it starts again, and here we're gonna use the satellites image, right? So yeah, of course, that's not my day, right? Still at that. All right, and here we have demo, blah blah blah. Okay. Ah, but I should. Yeah. I'm a bit stupid. So this and the other things I need to do, because it just released, so I need to update my gear. We need to update this one. So here you see, yeah, everything is in the release notes. Here you have the version that has been released. Alright, I'm just gonna wait a few seconds, but if it doesn't... Okay. Alright, so let's check. We have type, tac. Oh, but actually, you know what? By the way, I don't know if you know, but now you can also use Podman. So instead of Docker, we're just gonna use Podman. So let's try that. Yeah, it's not better, it's also... I just don't know, that's something like... and the network is not that fast. Alright, so while it's do that, I will come back to this. Okay. Those are the things I want to show you. Podman is what I want to show you, and while those stuff are fetching, let's have a quick look. So again, here in the console UI, there is a new notification pane that shows you what's to upgrade, if low on cycles and inbox. And because of that, you remember there was like mission control and analytics that shows you the cycles. We don't need that anymore, because if they go low on cycle, you would get an alert here. And also the wallet is smaller, and in the wallet here you directly have the access to the receive option or to the send option, like right from there, anywhere in the application. The menu has been reworked also. Now in the menu you find a link to the doc and a link to the changelog directly, which is also, I mean, it's kind of nice. And if you go to the navigation, like the small things, this button is different now, bigger, and you may have seen that before in the live stream. Before there was those small buttons here that no one find out. That was like a bad design. So now you have like really big button here with a call to action and further option. And the top up button has been moved here next to the runtime, where you have the cycles and everything, so you can top up from here. And same like all those options, like transferring cycles, buying cycles from fiat, that's all here. And similarly you got like the delete and the stop and start button that should be here and should appear. And those changes here are effective on each screen where we add those 3 small dots. So for example, if I go to the mission control, you see I also have like the big button here. And if I go to the analytics, I don't know if I have, yeah, You see in the overview also got that and so on. Okay. And yeah, what else? So new app, integrate warning, dispositif, blah blah blah, remove derivation, compatible, blah blah blah, that does not work yet, and so on. That's basically it. So here it's still fetching things. All right. Yeah. So since it takes ages, I'm just gonna explain. So why it's important? Why it's handy to have like those come on. I cannot, I don't know, like it's not switching in the window I want to switch. Yeah. Why it's handy to have this also is because remember we were developing that Papyrus application where we use the serverless function and so on. So either I can document in the README and say, hey, look, if you want to use that application on your own, you can fork the repo, and then you have to log in, you have to create a satellite, and then you have to create that collection and that collection and that collection and that collection with this and that. And instead of doing that, I can just describe the schema in my config file, and then in my README I say, look, once you have created your satellites, you just do Juno config, and when it works out, once I resolve the bug, and then you are set and ready to go. So that's basically also the idea. But yeah, looks like my network is not that private. Right, so I have one or two things left to do to announce it, but I guess like in the next hours I will post a message on the various channels to say that that it has been released. So remember, upgrade the satellites, update your CLI if you use it locally, and set a longer freezing threshold. So that would be, I think that's really important. And yeah, that's the takeaway of this release. So I hope it was relatively interesting to go through those changes, and if you have any question, ping me as always, and have a great week. Bye bye.